flipping back the calendar to highlight yesteryear's finest while exploring the vast archives in cinema history. This is the Movie Review Rewind podcast on Nashville Movie Dispatch.
Welcome back for another episode of the Movie Review Rewind podcast right here on Nashville Movie Dispatch. I'll be your host for the show, the EIC at Sobros Network, guest writer on Nashville Movie Dispatch, Big Natural Stoney Keeley. You can follow me on Twitter at Stoney Keeley, everywhere on social media at Stoney Keeley. Joined as usual by the star of the show himself, my co-host.
Hey.
I just realized this isn't the Vix Flicks podcast. I've done that before recently.
No, I know. It's easy to do. There's a lot of movie shit going on here.
He is a board member of the Music City Film Critics Association. He's a member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association, and he's our resident film critic here at Nashville Movie Dispatch, Mr. Big Shot himself, Brandon Vick. Brandon, how you doing today?
Good, man. I just came from my home with my family, and I found out something real quick, that when you do something with your child and they like it, they want you to do it again and again.
Oh yeah.
And my mistake is that I grabbed him and kind of locked in my arms and spun him, and I'm actually still feeling kind of sick from doing that.
Really? But he ate it up.
He loved it. He was
like
dizzy.
A merry-go-round.
He was dizzy like me. But then I realized, even 10 minutes later, and I got in the shower, I thought, they might walk in with me puking. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a weird thing, because I can remember being a kid, and our thing, we used to spin around in a circle really fast.
Yeah.
And then when you stop, it feels like everything is still spinning. And now that I'm, approaching 40,
yeah,
I've had 5 concussions at least. And I get dizzy getting out of bed in the morning. I stop and think to myself sometimes, maybe that wasn't so good for me.
I've gotten nauseous when we take Oliver to the playground and I start to swing.
Yeah? Man, that's
Which then makes me think, because I'm also approaching 40, and one of my things is I would like to go to amusement park because I haven't been in so long.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what if we go and I get off like the kids roller coaster? I'm like, hey guys, my tummy don't feel good.
Listen, I can tell you it's been about 7 years at this point, but I have been to a theme park as an adult, and I got on a ride called the Joker at Great Adventure in New Jersey.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
And it flips you, kind of like the zipper.
Oh, now see,
it takes you up 100,000 feet in the air.
Right.
And then it goes on a back and forth track. So you're going down,
but you're
forward,
flipping over,
back, down. And the whole time you're doing this, you're spinning. And at one point, I had to close my eyes because I thought,
I'll be honest,
it overrides the fear of heights.
Yeah.
And the fear of losing control, because you do kind of feel like you're gonna fly out of this thing and just land in the parking lot somewhere. But
I think I would have skipped that one. That's a little too much, just extra
well, you know
spinning.
what? We're men of a certain age, so you see something like that and you're like, it's almost like I wanted to prove to myself I can still do that.
Yeah.
I can still handle this.
It's also called the Joker, so I feel like you kind of feel like you have to, because to say you didn't ride the Joker.
When we stop recording, I'll show you a YouTube video of it so you can get a sense of just how...
Oh, of the ride? Okay. Yeah. I would like to go to Great Adventure.
The worst part is that I got off the ride and my nephew went straight to my family and said, Uncle Stoney closed his eyes.
Well.
And I was like, you know what? It sounds stupid because you start trying to defend yourself. I wasn't scared. I was just trying not to throw up.
Yeah. And also, how old was the nephew?
He would have been 5 at the time.
All right. Well, you know what? That's easy to say.
Yeah.
You got your whole life ahead of you.
Probably too young to have been on that ride.
I was going to say, I actually thought you would say he was older, because I feel like he shouldn't have been on the Joker ride either.
Unless I've got my years mixed up. He was 5 years old, yeah.
But point is that he doesn't know. He doesn't know what life has in store for him.
Yeah.
And by the time he's 40 and we're dead, he's going to know the same damn feeling.
Well, I was about to say, when he's 35 years old, I hope I'm still living, because I'm going to go pick him up and we're going to go to Great Adventure. And I'm going to get him on that Joker ride and be like, I want to see you keep your eyes open this whole
Yeah.
time. He's probably also going to be a lot healthier than me.
Yeah. Can I go too? Just to see
Yeah,
if
of
I can
course.
keep my toupee and my teeth in my mouth?
Of course, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. We are here to talk about 2007's There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
Which, I think the appropriate question to lead off on this discussion is, which do you find yourself quoting more? I abandoned my boy or I drink your milkshake?
Oh, no. I do milkshake a lot. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense. I love it.
Yeah.
I love the way he says it. And for anybody that hasn't, I highly suggest. And last September, we did a thing for Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, that's kind of it's one of the motivators for the show.
Yeah, that's what started it. And so I have watched There Will Be Blood more than a few times, but the last time was preparing for that podcast for PTA. But it's that milkshake one. And I love the way he says it about that straw. And because in my head, I'm like, that's a long-ass straw.
It is a long-ass straw.
Point taken.
Yeah.
Point taken.
Do you find that this movie is easy to rewatch? Because it is a very, very intense, overwhelming, emotionally kind of movie.
Yeah. I think it's tough. No, I shouldn't say tough. I don't know if I would say I would sit down and watch it all the way through.
Yeah.
But I could easily watch, like if it was on and just randomly, like I'm happy to watch a lot of scenes. The Paul Dano where he's like, I've abandoned my boy, but also when they first meet.
Yeah.
And then when he ends up leaving his son on the train. There's so many things throughout the film that I feel like I could probably turn it on at any point and watch a little bit of it and be like, that's cinema.
It's kind of, to me, it's kind of like those little craft shops in Gatlinburg where they have the woodworker that's set up where you've got like a glass window in a shop where you can walk by and watch him work for a little bit, watch him at his craft.
I think you can watch a geniuses at work, right?
Yeah, and I think There Will Be Blood has that similar effect where it's like, if it's on the TV, you can stop for a few minutes and watch Daniel Day-Lewis do his thing and just appreciate the craft of what he's doing. Like, I get why people say it's not an uplifting movie.
No, not at all.
And it is very, there is a very visceral quality to Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in it. But for me, I don't know, maybe I'm just not a feel-good kind of guy, but I love watching this performance from Daniel Day-Lewis.
I think from just like in a film perspective, this is some of the best shit you'll ever see.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I see a lot of people say, "Hey, let's not throw around the word masterpiece."
Yeah,
but There Will Be Blood is it.
There's a weird debate among critics about this movie and the term masterpiece, which we'll get into on
I
this show.
still think There Will Be Blood is the best. Now, I will also say, as for PTA, One Battle After Another gets pretty close, and I'm a huge fan of almost everything he's done. But there is something about this movie that, performances, production design, cinematography, just the theme of it. But there is no There Will Be Blood without Daniel Day-Lewis. And I feel like this movie, to me, Daniel Plainview and Bill the Butcher are his most, what kind of films are those without him?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about movies that had Leonardo DiCaprio in it. And let's not forget E.T.'s Henry Thomas and Gangs of New York.
Of course.
And Brendan Gleeson, too.
Of course, yes.
And John C. Reilly and Liam Neeson. Anyway, but yes, I was in love with this movie the moment I saw it. I really have been meaning to go back and watch to read the Oil book because it's loosely based off of that.
It's based on the first 200 pages of Oil.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And
I didn't
Oil
know
is a pretty big book. But yeah,
I kind of wanted to go back and watch that and read that.
Yeah, we need to look on thrift books and see if that's available.
I'm sure it is. But then I think, what kind of year would it have been if it came out the year before or after No Country for Old Men.
We'll get into that.
Okay, all right.
I think
I'll
that's
save it. I'll save it. I'll save it.
Fun discussion to be had.
Because let me tell
20
you,
years
we
later.
were eating good that year.
Yeah,
eating
you ain't
real
kidding.
good.
That whole period, which we'll get into, but
No Country for Old Men, masterpiece.
I mean, I think both of these movies are
I do too.
are
I
masterpieces.
do too. I do too.
It's a very rare occasion when two movies like that come out in the same year. It feels like
Can I tell you? I think it's a little bit of that feeling that with this year's Oscars of One Bow After Another and Sinners.
Oh yeah, okay, I could see.
I mean,
that.
just the first of all, this had One Bow After Another and Sinners had much more of kind of mass appeal than I think maybe No Country and
Box office.
There Will Be Blood, back then.
Yeah, sure.
But I do think those are like two super heavyweights.
Yeah. So I mentioned that we had
That and Gandhi.
Yes. Mentioned that we had a podcast about Paul Thomas Anderson's filmography.
Yeah.
That is on the VixFlix podcast here on Nashville Movie Dispatch. You can search that in the archives. But we also, like when we were planning out our year, we looked at having holes in April and May and thinking, you know what, for the most part on Movie Review Rewind, we're doing shows based off of, let's see how that aged. Like haven't thought about that movie in a long time, or it's stuff that like, this is considered a classic, but I never saw it. It slipped through the cracks for me, so let's watch it for the first time.
Yeah.
Or we're doing a podcast about Jamie Lee Curtis, and we just keep talking about True Lies. So hey, let's
a fish
watch
called
it.
Wanda.
Yeah, so stuff like that, but. I think there are spots on this show where every once in a while we kind of work in, okay, let's talk about some of our favorites. And that's what we're going to be doing the next couple of months.
Yeah.
We can call it the Movie Review Rewind Signature Series, if you will. But next month we will have wrapped up all four. We'll have an episode on all four of the movies that I have as my favorite films on Letterboxd.
Okay.
But you chose There Will Be Blood for yours in this spot. Mm-hmm. And I just want you to share with the class why this movie resonates so much with you and why you specifically wanted to talk about this movie at a spot where we said, hey, let's pick one of our favorites and talk about it.
I mean, honestly, I remember there was so much buzz leading into it. And I remember going to Green Hills Theater. They were one of the few that had it, and it was closer to nationwide release in January, even though it was technically, December of release date. But like, I just remember the score and seeing it in theaters, and it's not that I didn't know who Daniel Day-Lewis was. Obviously, I've already seen Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
I still have not seen, like, In the Name of the Father and My Left Foot. Like, I still have not seen these movies.
Is My Left Foot the one where he wouldn't get out of the wheelchair the whole time he was filming?
Yes.
He's
very method. In case people don't know, the guy's very method. And his son, because the last movie he did, he came out of retirement after, what was it, Lincoln? He went into retirement after Lincoln. No, Phantom Thread.
I was about to say, I thought it was Phantom Thread after Lincoln.
And then went 7 years and then ended up doing that movie that his son wrote and directed.
Anemone?
They both wrote and directed.
Yeah.
And Sean Bean co-starred him. And but there's just something so memorable about everything Daniel Plainview does. And it's I love the time period.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of like a frontier story at the same time.
It very much is. But the way that he shows that good American spirit of trying to cash in on people who are less fortunate.
The good American
and the weaker,
spirit.
Yeah. But there's so many things that deals with isolation and family and ambition and greed. And listen, I love Tarantino, but fuck him about Paul Dano. I'm sorry.
Ain't that the truth,
But Paul Dano should have been nominated.
Yeah,
He literally plays sort of two roles.
Well, did you know that he was not originally cast as Eli?
Yes.
And the guy that they cast walked away from the role, and they gave it to Paul Dano with 4 days to prepare for it.
Barry Pepper is who walked away from it.
I think it was Kyle O'Neill,
Yeah.
something like that.
Kyle Chandler.
Chandler, but I mean that's why like some people are like, oh, the balance is off between Dano and Daniel Day-Lewis in the culminating scene, and it's like, you know, maybe, but can we consider the fact that like Paul Dano took this role on 4 days'
Not only
notice?
that, but then there's the whole reason for it, and then there's kind of that religious influence, but also there is taking advantage of an opportunity, which is what America was built on. But there's also just so many memorable scenes. Forget the, I mean, you know, yes, the milkshake one, which is, I mean, phenomenal. But there, like you said, like I abandoned my boy. Like there's so many things
the
and the
fire
sacrifices, and then it is sort of that one too. But then
Very
it's also
intense.
it really is kind of the journey of one man through it all. And then what did he really accomplish? Like at the end of the day, when he says, I'm done, and some people say he talks about like kind of that, or if with his meal, but what do you have to show for it?
Yeah.
He has no one. And one of the most heartbreaking scenes is when he's talking to his adult son, and you can see that now he sees him as his competitor, and that's just how he has seen the world for so long that, like, it's a tragedy is really what There Will Be Blood is. But it's so well done. I really hold it in really high regard. And it's very rare to have something like that where I think in my letterbox, I'm pretty sure I have that, The Departed and No Country for Old Men, and something else in the top 4. And it's true. Like it is.
Yeah.
It resonates on so many levels. I just don't know. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis is just so damn memorable. And I sometimes think Paul Dano kind of gets left aside, but he plays a very pivotal part because he really is the one that kind of just keeps being a pain in the ass just enough.
Yeah.
And but Paul Dano's character, both of them know they want something out of it too. And it's greed, and they're both fighting over something that could easily, I think, be settled, but it's greed. It's just an abundance of greed.
So when you look at where this movie came along in Paul Thomas Anderson's filmography, it's 2007. He's 5 years off of Punch Drunk Love, which apparently is the film that he had heard that Daniel Day-Lewis liked Punch Drunk Love, and has said that's the only reason he had the confidence to hand that man a script and say, I want you for
That's
There Will Be
funny.
Blood.
Because Boogie Nights and Magnolia had already started, and I'm kind of surprised by that.
But these all kind of feel like different films compared to There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
Do you think this was the film that really elevated PTA to another level as a filmmaker?
Yes. I think in some ways he sort of really established himself.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because Daniel Day-Lewis is so well regarded. But to combine these efforts, if it was not for Coen Brothers,
Yeah, man.
he would have already been, we wouldn't have to worry about one battle after another. He would already be an Oscar winner.
Yeah.
For, I would say at least 2 or 3 Oscars. But yes, I think this did cement him in like, you know what? This filmmaker is as good as it gets. And in this generation's sort of Tarantino or Spielberg or, you know, Brian De Palma or Coppola, that PTA is the real deal.
It kind of feels like a departure from the PTA films we got before this, because those kind of feel like sprawling stories with a lot of different characters and several different plot lines going on. But There Will Be Blood feels a little more straight line. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. But also, is this the first time PTA sort of adapted it instead of just writing? Because Hard 8, Boogie Nights, and Magnolia, I think might all just be from him. And I wonder if Oil is the first one
I thought
where he
Magnolia.
took some material.
I thought Magnolia was an adaptation of something.
Goblet of Fire?
Goblet of Fire, I think. Yeah, I don't know.
That's it? Maybe
don't
I'm
know.
wrong, but I do think there is I think There Will Be Blood is, and I know this might sound crazy because I know people have their favorites of PTA, but it's sort of elevating his game on a different, just of a different standard. And I think all of it is really based on, obviously, the story that he's telling, but also the characters that are at play. And I think There Will Be Blood was one of the first times we're like, hey, this is, to me, this is something special. Like, I don't think people can repeat this. And the fact that PTA went on to work with Daniel Day-Lewis again, I don't think it was in the same way. Mm-hmm. I don't mind Phantom Thread, but I would not put it shoulder to shoulder with There Will Be Blood. But there was something I feel like that he kind of cracked with There Will Be Blood, more so than, and again, I'm a huge fan of Boogie Nights and Magnolia. I like Punch Drunk Love. It's a very quirky, weird movie.
It's on
and
the
I think
lower...
he kind of like scales it back for it.
Yeah.
But the man really doesn't have a bad movie.
No, I mean, Punch Drunk Love is kind of on the lower end of the spectrum for him, but it's still
Isn't it kind of like talking
really
Tarantino? Like, you kind of don't like the movie, but it's still
It's
like best of what most people will ever do.
It's kind of like you have to pick one of these to be the worst,
right,
just by default.
Right. In Phantom Thread, I'll be honest, and again, in our PTA podcast, I rewatched it. I like it, but I don't think that, like...
Oh, it's one of my favorites of his.
It has its moments, but I can't still get past, like... I love Leslie Manfield. Like, I kind of like the women in the movie more than him, as far as performance-wise.
Yeah.
Not that Daniel Day-Lewis isn't fantastic, but yeah, I just like... I don't know. Something... My eyes really opened when I saw There Will Be Blood.
So I mentioned earlier, like, the raw, relentless nature of this movie. Gritty, irredeemable character in Daniel Plainview, where it's almost like he just can't help himself. You mentioned his view of the world as competition everywhere.
I mean, he wants to devour everything.
And doing whatever he has to rid himself of that competition.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you get that character in place, and Daniel Day-Lewis delivers a knockout performance. I'm not taking anything away from him when I say this, but it feels like PTA does a fantastic job as far as the setting, the cinematography, some of the technical aspects of this film really accentuate almost the depravity of the Daniel Plainview character. So I was curious if you got the same sense of this being sort of a total big picture effort to really make this gritty, relentless, emotionally exhausting kind of film, and how the technical aspects of it help get the point across.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing I really kind of admire is just how cutthroat it is.
Yeah, cutthroat.
And I guess the thing is that besides his son, I don't know if anybody's really likable.
Yeah.
And there is no redeemable quality about it, which that's okay. Like, that's fine. Is it just me, or when I even rewatched it, parts of me felt like it was the guy that plays his brother, he finds out it's his brother.
Yeah.
In my head, I think it's Walton Goggins. Even though that guy, I think, is in like the Mummy movies. The guy who actually plays him. But I swear to God, every time I first think about him, I'm like, oh, Walton Goggins was in There Will Be Blood. And then people will be disappointed. He is not. But yeah, there really is that sense. But I also think that's what you kind of appreciate, is that this isn't a happy ending. This isn't a redeemable thing. He is who he is. He's gotten what he's received because of who he is. But the thing is that at what cost?
Yeah.
And his son, I think, is really kind of that idea that's through the film. Because you can't rely on Paul Dano's. Everybody's in it for something. And that's why I love that the movie ends with them two. Mm-hmm. Because they both have the same disease, right?
Yeah.
But the son doesn't. and he recognizes it. And it's almost like, and for me, in that last scene, I feel like Daniel sort of understands it. But he's never going to show that weakness, and he's never going to admit it. Which reminds me of a lot of kind of how this world works.
It's weakness. He perceives it as weakness.
Right. And his son sees the sadness that has happened to his father, and that's it. And I don't know what people, there's many interpretations from any film you see, and obviously with There Will Be Blood at the end. But there is, it's a tragedy.
Yeah.
The man is not, he's not living his best life no matter what he says. And even though of all he's accomplished, it's just him.
Yeah.
In this big old house with, by the way, a great bowling alley. But can I say...
Which they said was like very narrow and difficult to shoot in because you'd have to have not only the two actors are there, but you got to figure out the camera crew and everybody. So they said they were trying to like do gymnastics to navigate this room to get the shots.
In case people are wondering just of how like close this is that I think, was it New Mexico, where like No Country for Old Men, some of their scenes were interrupted because of the explosions that There Will Be Blood. Like these movies were shoulder to shoulder all the way through till damn Oscar night.
That's
which
I was about to say,
I think
it feels,
it's fun.
And we're sitting here almost 20 years later still talking about these two films. It almost feels like they're just destined to dance this way forever.
Let me tell on to that note, for anybody that doesn't realize, No Country for Old Men finally had a 4K Criterion Collection. I need that. There Will Be Blood.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
I need it.
Ain't that the truth? I got a really nice little collector's edition from our friends at Danger Zone Video.
Did you?
Yeah. It's just a little cardboard sleeve, but it's got like...
that's better than mine, the one I had. The cardboard with the flap.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's old school.
But I feel like things are a-changing because if anybody has gotten it, I got it for Christmas, but I got a beautiful Steelbook 4K of Boogie Nights.
Ooh.
And I hear Magnolia's on the way.
So, talking about PTA's filmography, what is it, 10 films at this point?
I think a lot of filmatics jerk off to it.
Yeah, as they should.
Yeah.
And that's actually, we've been doing it for the entire 30 minutes of this podcast.
Yeah, no. I filled up 2 buckets.
So, I think this is the one movie, and maybe this is a hot take because one battle after another hasn't really aged at all. It's only been out a year at this point. Not even a year at this point.
Yeah.
But of all the movies he's made, I feel like There Will Be Blood is the one that ages like a fine wine. It just seems to get better. And I think there's a reason for that, in my opinion. As long as there are people in the world that want to obtain absolute power and wealth and will do anything they have to achieve it, this is a relevant film.
That's really unfamiliar these days. But
I think
maybe we can get together.
You could see a little Daniel Plainview in several different people that are giants in our society these days.
Oh, yeah.
But it's kind of harrowing to think like this movie is set back at the turn of the century, like the 1890s, early 1900s.
Yeah.
I can't recall, but like this kind of stuff, like these people still exist today. And that's where I see this as a sort of critique of capitalism itself and
absolutely the
principles that kind of guide this American sense of greed.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
Competition.
Yeah. And I mean, and for the young folks, I mean, think of how America was even discovered. I mean, I mean, there's this evolution where they make it look better.
Yeah.
And maybe it's more acceptable, depending. But this is the way of the land.
Yeah. And it's 130 years later.
And if it's not Daniel Plainview, it's going to be someone else.
Yeah.
And when someone, and I think this is why Paul Dano's characters are so significant, is that you give them a taste.
Yeah.
And it's even more. And then you see, oh, look what he can do. And it's more of, I mean, it's very much of using people, manipulating people. And even when he's trying to buy up the land, Daniel Plainview, the promises he's making, and he uses his the orphan son. It's all about one thing.
Yeah.
And what I think is really sort of bittersweet and also beautiful about it is when it all ends and Daniel Plainview has, air quotes, won, he's lost everything.
It's like
He's in a big old house with no one that gives a shit about him.
it's like, congrats, you've won the war, but the city's in ruins.
Right, exactly.
It's just rubble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's really something to that. And
Yeah.
I think that is very relatable to a lot of things that we've seen throughout, our lifetimes, much less before. And so I think there's just always this profoundness about There Will Be Blood, because the thing is that it's not that foreign.
Yeah.
It's not that it can be thought of, it can be imagined, and it does happen. But again, it's at what cost? And it cost him everything. And I think that's sort of, that's not a newfound theme in film
Sure.
about, hey,
Sure.
be grateful. It's a Wonderful Life is very much about that. That's the first thing that came to my mind. When Angel gets its wings, it gets pregnant, I think is the word.
I think that's the quote
So,
exactly, word for word.
But yeah, I love that cinema, but there is something, and it's sort of, and again, I hate to do it, but it's about No Country for Old Men. Oh, those villains. Those villains are so damn appealing just because of who's playing them. And like I said,
Well, they both won Oscars that year.
exactly. And I don't really, I know I probably have seen stuff before because he was in Collateral, for instance. But Javier Bardem, obviously, as Sugar, is very memorable and is one of the
Yeah.
best villains. So is Christoph Waltz, I think, in Inglourious Bastards. I kind of compare the two. And Heath Ledger for Dark Knight. And they all won Oscars, by the way. But Daniel Day-Lewis is right there with him, because even though I loved him as Bill the Butcher, which again, very memorable, There Will Be Blood. There's a new kind of nastiness to it, but it's dressed up in this kind of sophistication as if it's okay, and it's not, and it never has been, and it never will be. But that's how Daniel Plainview rolls.
yeah.
He drinks your flipping milkshake.
And it just kind of goes to the cyclical nature of
Exactly.
all of the Daniel Plainviews that have come since. So
Exactly. I would love to read Oil. Maybe
that's
I should put it
that's
back
the
on.
main takeaway we're coming.
I think
away
just
from
read the
in this
book.
show. Yeah.
But it's, what'd you say? The first 200 pages?
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see how that,
Where does
it stop, and
Yeah.
then the rest of it. Yeah.
it's weird, man, because I can't think of another filmmaker that I feel this way about, but we're sitting here talking about There Will Be Blood, and I'm like, yeah, this is my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Yeah.
But
mine
then I
too.
remember seeing Magnolia and being like,
Yeah.
oh man, that's my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie. And then I go to the theaters and I see One Battle After Another, and I'm leaving the theater and I'm telling my wife, I think that's his best movie. Yeah. Is there another filmmaker in the game today that you can think of that has a filmography that is this good? Now, and I'm not talking about has his own style or makes a lot of money at the box office.
Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch.
Just the volume of films that he's put out and the total body of work that they're all good. And I'm not a fan of Licorice Pizza at all.
Yeah.
But I can still respect that it is a well-crafted movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I feel like there's a Spielberg, Tarantino.
Spielberg made War of the Worlds.
Yeah, I know. I'm
Okay,
saying,
I'm just
in
saying.
the big spectacle and things,
Okay.
his might be easier to be like, oh yeah, these are my top 3 right here.
Yeah.
I think Tarantino is a little tougher, only because even the worst one is not. I don't think that bad. I would put kind of like Kill Bill down there. But again, they're not none of them are awful. Mm-hmm. And some of them, like we were talking about in here recently, about Jackie Brown, I think are very underrated. I don't think people appreciate them as much. I also would say that, and I feel like people are going to be like, oh, what a cop-out. But I think Coen Brothers is kind of there too.
Yeah.
I think there's stuff that you can like, but it's like, oh, that's not my favorite.
Coen Brothers together.
Yes, just Coen Brothers. Yes.
Yeah.
Joel and Ethan have had their separate things. But because I think of like The Man Who Wasn't There is a good film.
I never saw that.
But I forgot that it was the Coen brothers, and it just joined the Criterion Collection. They did Intolerable Cruelty. I'm not a huge fan of that with George Clooney, Catherine Zeta-Jones. But then you think of like Their True Grit, Fargo.
Yeah, I like that.
Right? Burn After Reading, which I think is very underrated and is very funny. And then No Country for Old Men, and I guess that's all they've done. But I'm just kidding. There's probably more I've forgotten. But
what about? Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
What about Nolan? Do you put Christopher Nolan in that?
Yeah, I do. That's a good one because none of his are bad in any sense. Even if you start with his very first one, it's like 73 minutes or whatever.
I personally, and my tastes, I'm a big fan of Robert Eggers. But it's kind of
done that many.
I was about to say it's 4 films.
Right.
It's kind of unfair. Like I think you gotta keep this.
That's
streak
sort of
going
like a
for,
Ryan Coogler. It's great, but they just haven't done that much.
Yeah, and
but you think of Nolan of like Insomnia.
Yeah.
The Prestige.
The Prestige.
Obviously, the Batman movies.
Inception.
Oppenheimer and Inception. Yeah. Dunkirk.
Dunkirk is great.
So he's a great. Ow.
Are you okay?
No, I just hit my claw.
Well, it's awkward the way we're recording this before our Oscars.
Yeah.
We're next
But
to each
Nolan
other.
is a good one because there's not a bad movie in there. It's just kind of like what a lot of these, and I think PTA is one of them. Is like it's sort of like what was your personal experience on it? Because there are people who love and adore Punch Drunk Love.
Yeah.
It's good. It's weird, but it's also perfect for Adam Sandler and PTA. It's also, I think, maybe his shortest movie. But, I mean, Boogie Nights and Magnolia, and then you're talking about There Will Be Blood, and then, like...
The Master.
Yeah, I mean...
We haven't even talked about The Master yet.
Yeah, and I like The Master, even though I appreciate it more, but... One thing he gets, man, is he gets some legendary performances.
That's
out
one
of,
thing
out of all these guys.
One thing he said, I can't remember what it was for, but it was on one of his press tours. He was interviewing with somebody, and he was just like, "I'm gonna swing for the fences. Like if I'm gonna do these movies and put all this into it, like I want the absolute best."
But that's what I think. That's what you kind of hope for every director is that if you're gonna invest this much time and in this much somebody's money, then fucking go for it and do it. And, One Bat After Another is considered kind of his first action movie, which in a lot of ways that's very true. But I mean, just think of how memorable Sean Penn is.
Yeah.
But also Benicio and Tiana Taylor and Chase Infinity. And then you still have Leonardo DiCaprio. That's really something. And with There Will Be Blood, there's a lot. It's a great cast. I mean, we say Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Dano obviously bring it, but there's a lot of different character actors and stuff that is into it. And one thing I didn't even realize who it was, but Jim Downey. So he's like a legendary writer on SNL. He's one of the guys that is going over the plans of Daniel Plainview.
Oh, I had no idea.
But because he doesn't have his mustache, I didn't know. I had no idea who he was.
How about that? Wow.
But I really enjoy. I think Nolan is a great example because Nolan's been in the game for a while, and I don't think he's really made a bad movie. It's just kind of depends what your personal favorite is. But I feel like Tarantino. I think we could put him up there, and even with Coens, because the Coens. I think it just kind of depends on what you like. I mean, they've dabbled in so many different things, but what they're known for is the thread through them all. Yeah. And PTA and I mean all of these great filmmakers obviously have that where you know what kind of movie you're getting, even and no matter the genre.
So we keep talking about No Country for Old Men. Let's talk about this Oscar race because 2 heavyweights going, right? Mm-hmm. Now we've had 20 years, almost 20 years, to kind of sit on these 2 films. Mm-hmm. Do you flip them for Best Picture all these years later? Because I think the way I think and meditate on this and just really, really think about it, I do think that No Country for Old Men is a masterpiece. I think There Will Be Blood is a masterpiece. But I do think that there's a profundity in There Will Be Blood that is not in No Country for Old Men. And it's not to say that it's not a profound movie or anything like that, but I think there is something about it that it's almost like There Will Be Blood has simmered for the last 20 years. And every time I watch it and see it, I feel like it gets a little more relevant. Whereas through all these years, No Country for Old Men has kind of plateaued in that regard. And I think it's a more rewatchable film than There Will Be Blood is. And I feel like there is that sort of basic human entertainment factor in it that There Will Be Blood is kind of lacking. Because I do think it asks a lot of you to really engage with this film.
And No Country for Old Men, again, adaptation of a Cormac McCarthy film, but there are a lot of more cool scenes in No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
And the villain is very memorable, just look alone.
Yeah.
So you have that.
So I think thinking about the meaning and what There Will Be Blood says, I think that kind of outweighs it. And I think I'm leaning 20 years later, I'd probably flip them and say There Will Be Blood should have been Best Picture that year. But it's interesting because, I mean, even now you get people that are like, yeah, No Country was a great film, but There Will Be Blood should have won. And if There Will Be Blood if There Will Be Blood did win back then, you'd have people saying, wow, can't believe No Country for Old Men didn't win.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. Like I said,
it is tricky.
You look back through the Oscars, it seems rare you have two movies that are this good. Like, I mean, these are
it's a
both
good problem to have.
like tentpole films for this era.
Yeah. I think I would award Best Picture to There Will Be Blood. I think there's just, as time has gone on, it definitely stands the test of time. And I think part of it also is No Country for Old Men does, and for whatever reason, I think this still plays a part. It's sort of like a Western.
Yeah.
And I think there's just something about with Hollywood and Westerns and stuff anyway, right?
But I also think, finish your thought.
Well,
I'm sorry,
I'm just
I
to
didn't
say,
mean to cut you off.
I wouldn't have changed Best Supporting Actor for Javier Bardem. I wouldn't change Best Actor. But the question is, does PTA get Best Director instead of Coen's? And then you have the Best Picture. And parts of me feels like Coen's could have won for different things. I feel like PTA really should have won for he should already be an Oscar winner for There Will Be Blood.
Yeah,
That's the best way to kind of sum it up.
This era of films.
What is this, 2008? 2007?
07 through like 2012 was Inception, I think.
Yeah.
Or was it 2009? I can't remember.
I don't know.
I get that and Interstellar mixed up sometimes. But does this kind of feel like the last great boon in original, not like technically it's adapted from a source material, so it can't be original, but like these type of movies getting made, getting recognition, before we started getting into this IP craze. Because
it is kind of like 1 year after where Iron Man sort of starts in 2008, right?
But then like The Social Network was somewhere in there.
2010 maybe?
And like I mentioned Inception.
Yeah. Well, Nolan is doing his own thing. I mean, no matter what.
I'm just curious because these feel like real titans of cinema history.
Yeah, I do. What's funny is that we're talking in a time when we're talking about Marty Supreme, Sinners, and One Battle After Another.
Yeah.
I do think it's been lacking since
that era.
No Country for Old Men.
That spell of like 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
And Glorious Bastards is in there too.
Right.
Range.
So, but we're kind of talking about the same filmmakers. So, with
that's a
Coogler,
good
with
point.
Coogler, and so Coogler's in the mix, Safdie Brothers, because I love Uncut Gems and stuff like that.
Safdie Brothers, yeah.
I think there's some truth to that, but I think with everything there has been your Robert Eggers and your Safdie Brothers and your Ryan Cooglers who've come along that really push the envelope on, even if it's adapted original, but the feel of a film that's not a superhero, or in Coogler's case, even if it's a superhero, they've made it different. They've made Black Panther something different. That takes a lot. I mean, that
fair enough.
And I mean, I think a lot of stars have to align for that. But when it works, folks, it works. Let me ask you this about the director's thing. What do you think about Scorsese? I don't know how much stuff you've seen of his, and he's been in the game for so long.
I almost feel like he's achieved this sort of Godfather status. It's like everybody knows and acknowledges his greatness, but like it's almost unfair because like if you put his reputation up against anybody else's, he's going to have the name recognition among like the common cinephile.
Yes.
But he's also going to have the body of work.
Yeah. And the filmmakers are you bow down.
It's like he's so far ahead of everybody else that it's almost not fair.
It's funny though. There's a documentary on Apple it's called Mr. Scorsese. It's like a 4 or 5 part thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of his shit doesn't make money.
Yeah.
But it's classic because I still would like to see Mean Streets. I have not watched Mean Streets.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Raging Bull all the way through.
Oh, we need to get that on
But I've
the
seen
list.
Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
But even the things he's done with like DiCaprio, right? Like I feel like people don't talk enough about Shutter Island. And I love
Shutter
that
Island.
movie. I love The Departed. We talk about Casino, Goodfellas and stuff. But then you're like, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
And Silence. With Andrew Garfield, Adam Driver, Liam Neeson. Like, he's also done The Last Temptation of Christ. And it's amazing the things that he's been able to do. And I think if you pile them up, I don't know if there is again, air quote, bad Scorsese movie, but I will agree. I feel like he's also just on another level because he's just been doing it for so long. And he's kept up that quality. I feel like him and Spielberg are kind of the two that are like, it's not that it totally hits, but it's never a miss, and they're doing what they want, and they've earned it.
Very well.
You know what I mean? Yeah. They've earned it.
I want to read Roger Ebert's review
he's dead.
Of There Will Be Blood because some people are kind of reading through some of the reviews. I feel like people are a little smarmy about There Will Be Blood and the fact that so many people called it a masterpiece at the time.
Then they started taking offense to it.
And Roger Ebert's review is the one that I felt was the most comprehensive of the issues that people were pointing out.
Okay.
He gave it 3.5 out of 4 stars.
Okay.
And wrote, There Will Be Blood is the kind of film that is easily called great. I am not sure of its greatness. It was filmed in the same area of Texas used by No Country for Old Men. There's that parallel again. And that is a great film and a perfect one. But There Will Be Blood is not perfect, and in its imperfection, we may see its reach exceeding its grasp, which is not a dishonorable thing. And he lists in there the imperfections being its unbending characters, its lack of women or any reflection of ordinary society, its ending, and its relentlessness, which are like the relentlessness is something that you and I sat here and praised about the movie.
Yeah.
But I guess, different strokes for different folks. Yeah. The unbending characters, like, I would be critical of that because I kind of think that's the fucking point. That's the kind of fucking point of this movie.
Well, and it is sort of talking about the ending too, is that this is a full circle moment of these type of people and what they hold in high regard and what others would not. And then the sacrifices that are made and the tragedy that happens and then what you're left with. I think it's more impactful because of these things that Roger Ebert thinks are maybe imperfections.
And I would say, like, this film shows you that no matter what, this person is unbending, which is a terrifying thing.
Yes.
It's a terrifying thing, and I think
it's a reality,
deeply effective filmmaking.
It's a reality that is the blood pumps through America because of it.
So I'm glad you said that because the last note that I have is about America and how it is still relatively young in the history of the world.
Well, 250 years this year, apparently.
I think it's interesting to think about because, you start getting into some of the like Celtic mythology and Chinese mythology and Norse mythology, and you have all this folklore and all these legends that America just doesn't have, because it was born at a time when, none of this stuff. And to be fair, like, yes, Native American folklore and legends are out
Pocahontas.
there. I've got a book full of them upstairs, but
John Smith.
as far as the United States of America, we don't have that because it's still, relatively speaking, a young country in the history of the world. So I think that's why the Western genre speaks to Americans so potently, so strongly, is because in a way, these sorts of stories, you think about cowboys and outlaws and all this stuff, the wild, wild West, the frontier, at a time when, that history of events was not very accurate. There was a lot of he said, she said stuff that gets printed in the newspaper. But I think the result of that ends up being that stories like There Will Be Blood feel a little bit like America's folklore and America's mythology. And that's another reason I like this movie so much, is because I feel like it adds to that smartly in two different ways. For one, yes, it feels sort of mythical, but then it also has that message that tells you, that speaks to what this country was born out of and the guiding principles of the people that are making immense fortunes in this country, even today, almost 100 years later. So I would also submit that as a reason that this film not just stood the test of time, but has actually gotten better since its release almost 20 years ago.
I think, unfortunately, you are correct. I think that's very well put. I think it is acknowledgement of how things were done, and also what is the definition, the true meaning of success.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. And I think there is something about the Western, not only just in the ways that you have phrased it, but also just the way that Hollywood sees the Western. John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, there's so many people that started in that stuff anyway, and that kind of led it for quite a while. And, you're always the heroes of it, too.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes to what Ebert's saying. Like, there is no heroes, but that's the point. I think we've all have experienced enough to know that the good guys aren't always the one that succeed and that are the most powerful or the most rich or the most successful. That's not how that's typically not how it works. And I feel like there is things like There Will Be Blood, but then you can go back to things like Wall Street. I think there are just films that show you that these people do exist. And whether you like it or not, they're here. They are here, and that's the shit they do. And like you said, I think it's very well put. And I do think, and I think that's what makes it so profound and so captivating, is that this is it. Like, there is some truth to this on how people did. And, I even go back to Scorsese's Gangs of New York. Like, this is how things were done and settled. It's ugly and it's barbaric and it's awful. But at the same time, I also like to think, because the way they did this, someone else came along and tried to do it for the better. But Daniel Plainview is not that person. He was there to take advantage and expose and manipulate, and he was very smart at doing it. And he used everything and everyone possible. But how Daniel Day-Lewis does it, I just don't know how you can't be astonished by it.
Well said. Well said. It's the end of my notes. Did you have anything else you wanted
No,
to
that was a solid
off?
almost hour of talking about There Will Be Blood, but it's well worth it. It's
yeah.
well worth the watch. I think it's one of the greatest films of all time. I think it's one of the greatest performances of all time. And so I am very happy. And I just wonder what could have been if it was a year before, a year after of No Country. But I tell you what, those two films I hold very dear to my heart, and I always associate with some of the... Two kings sat on that throne with you, and there's just no way. There's no way about it.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us. As a reminder, you can check all of our work out at NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. This has been the Movie Review Rewind podcast. He's Brandon. I'm Stoney. And until next time, you stay classy, moviegoers.